Welcome back to the Freezing Cold Workshop. Appreciate you joining me. There's a couple of you now, so more than last time, which is what we're trying to do all the time. So thank you everybody for tuning in. Let's get straight into what we're doing here today. Now, last week I put up a poll, just tried out one of the features on the post section of the community tab, put up a poll and said, what do you want to see? Do you want to see JZX or do you want to see the introduction to GTI? You said GTI. Hadn't planned to shoot anything on GTI. So here we are. I've got a bunch of parts out. I'm going to show you what I've collected so far. So I've had this car for roughly 1 month, I think it is now. I've already done some modifications. I'm going to show you what those modifications are. Then I'm going to show you what you're going to do in the future. And then maybe give you a glimpse of what might happen beyond that as we go further and further into track use. It's a track car, so it's going to be super track orientated. You might be thinking, why a Golf GTI? That's a good shout considering what we've got in the garage. However, Volkswagens are definitely home for me. I've had loads of Mark IIs, I've had a Sirocco, I've obviously got the Beetle, I've got the T3 Synchro van. Over the course of the last 20 years or so, I've had loads of Volkswagens. So this is like coming home. The last project you might know is my white Mark V Golf GTI. That was big turbo, manual gearbox, similar to this. And loads of track aero, track suspension, big brakes, etc. Previous to that, one of my favourite builds that I've done is the Mark IV Golf. We called it the Zombie. So you might remember the PVW feature shoot for that one. It was on the cover. So Golfs are one of my favourite vehicles because they're so adaptable and so tunable. There's always so many products on offer. You can make tons of power and they're pretty robust. Alongside that, pretty much anybody of my age will have had to have cut their teeth on Golfs because that's really always available, like from a price point, rust-wise, all those kinds of things. So lots of people were really familiar with Golfs. The last track car I actually built was a VW Lupo Sport, which was a little bit unusual. So it was 100 horsepower, 1 ton, and cost £1,000. So that was kind of what we were trying to do. A couple of mates also got similar cars. I obviously cheated because I put a plate diff in it. T37s and got completely carried away. Going to try not to get carried away on this car, but you can mark that comment down and say what you're doing in 6 months' time when this has got a bit out of hand. But for now, let's go through where we're at. So what have we done so far to this car? Well, inside, we've got a nice Recaro pole position. I'm not very happy about the base frames that I've used. They're a little bit weak and a bit noisy, so I'm going to change those out. Otherwise, the interior is completely standard. I'll pop the bonnet while we're here. But the other thing we've got is Titan 7 wheels. So these are 19s at the moment. I'm going to change these out for 18s pretty soon, but I really like the way they look, but they're probably not suited to circuit just because they're a little bit too big. This really must go. I'm not a huge fan of the manufacturer of those spoilers. I don't want to break it because someone might need it, might want to use it, but not for me at all. So red badges means it's a performance pack. That means it's actually got the factory fitted LSD. However, I will be taking that LSD out and fitting a wave track into it. The factory ELSD tends to overheat and wear out. So after, I mean, this is on 140,000 miles now, so that ELSD is not going to be working optimally. So we're going to refresh the gearbox, put a wave track in it, and that will really get us up to sort of track performance. Under the bonnet, there's the R600. It does have a bit of damage to it, so not sure what's happened to that top lid, but I've got another one to change onto that. I don't have the silicone hose currently. I don't have a turbo elbow fitted, so I do need to do a couple of upgrades still on the intake system. Everything else in here is completely standard. And I'll be honest, not in fantastic condition. So like I say, this car's done 140,000 miles now. So it does look a bit tired. I don't think the turbo will last much longer. Definitely needs a new coolant tank because this one had the tea bag in it. If you don't know what the tea bag is, It really is just a tea bag that Volkswagen put inside the header tank to try and preserve the coolant. But it massively backfires. It clogs up lots of other stuff in the cooling system and has actually clogged the heating matrix in this car. So it's freezing cold. I'm not really using the car at the moment because of how cold it is. I do have a heating matrix ready to go in it, but I want to do the whole coolant system at the same time so that I just get rid of all of that. It's kind of like a sandy substance, so I get rid of everything at the same time. So radiator needs doing, because you can see here, pink coolant. So it's actually leaking at the moment from the end tank, which is not ideal. I've made some temporary fixes to some of the pipe work, so I'll get new pipes. It just needs a bit of maintenance, really. You can see down there all the sort of evidence of coolant leakage, so it needs a really good going through. Although the car drives fine at the moment, I think track use it's not going to really have a good time. So it does already have yellow speed coilovers, which, I'll be honest, I don't really like the way they drive. They're super bouncy. Just, I don't know whether they're tired or what, but no good. I'm going to change those. It does have performance pack brakes on it. So when you look at those, they're like the Golf R S3 brakes. So I might get away with those for a little bit longer. I've got some hot pads. It already has braided lines on it and already has fluid. So maybe we'll get away with those for a bit longer, but I would like to eventually upgrade to some 6-spots or something a bit more track orientated. Suspension wise, I'm undecided, but maybe AST or something like that. It really needs to be a track dedicated coilover. Those yellow speeds aren't up to the job. So what do we have down here on the floor? Well, at the moment it is kind of just a load of boxes, so let's go ahead and get them unboxed. So let's start with most obvious box. Okay, so this is a clutch kit. So it's a twin plate. So this has got 2 plates in it, obviously. So that is a double sinter metallic clutch, single mass flywheel. So that is complete overkill for what we're using it for. But this is something that the guys at Regal have had in development for a while. It's something that I'd like to try. So I'd like to see what it feels like, because I'm told this will feel similar to a stock clutch, but obviously have really high torque capability. So that's one of the most important things with these GTIs. Even standard, they can slip the clutch. So when we're doing track use and we're going out for long periods of time with more power, we're going to need as not aggressive as clutch as we can get, but as much torque capacity as we can find. Now, alongside the clutch, one important thing and one of my favourite things that I've actually got here is a Cooler Works shifter. So, because we've got the clutch that can do the work, we can bang straight through the gears with this Cooler Works. So I've spec'd it with a really cool red anodized knob on it. That will fit straight into the center console, and we'll obviously bring the shifter closer to the steering wheel, be much more direct. And to be honest, it's just a really nice thing to have, really tactile to shift with. So I'm really excited to get that installed in the car. It's debatable whether it will make it any faster, but it will certainly make it much more fun to drive. Small technical piece now is the Tyrrell Sport subframe location kit. So what this does is it sits between the subframe and the body, and it has ARP bolts to increase the clamping load, and also you tie the subframe to the body with these billet brackets. So it stops the subframe from moving around underneath the car. Obviously, as you increase the power, as you increase the braking capability, grippier tyres, it can move around more. So it's a problem anyway on standard cars. So it's something you want to do if you're out on circuit. So that is a must-have for me. Next up, this is a spoiler, but I'm going to leave that towards the end because that is one of my favourite pieces full stop basically. So this is obviously not new, but I do have a Miltech downpipe. This one has been Zerkatech coated, so I'll be able to keep engine bay heat at bay. Obviously it's decac downpipe, so track use only, but that's one of the best ways to make power actually on these cars. So that's a must-have, got to do that, especially for track use. Talking about power, this is key. So I'm gonna put this down and then open up this little puppy. That should do 440 horsepower. The reason why it does so is it's got a lot of porting inside the housing. I don't know if you can see that. It's got a different core, different hot side, different wastegate valve. So I think on circuit use, 380, 400 horsepower is more than enough. Then obviously if we're going faster, we want to be safe. So inside this box from TRS are some really cool Regal branded harnesses. Now I've run these in all of those previous projects that I've mentioned, the Mark IV, the Mark V. I've probably had them in some other cars as well. But I really love these harnesses, really super easy to use. Quick like release aluminium buckles and stuff. I will still use this car on the street, so things like this make life so much easier. So excited to get those in. Got another set here, so both sides will be the same. So passenger and driver will have the same harness, same base frames and same seats. A couple smaller things now. So I've shown you the R600 intake. Well, this is the turbo elbow, and this is one of the main parts actually that helps make a bit more power from the intake system. So it's much larger, smoother, and that'll work great with the turbo. So I just need to get the silicone hose for this, and then that's my R600 complete. This is really cool. So Vector. What Vector is well, there's a couple of things actually. This will probably be a video by itself. So Vector is a tuning device. It's a performance meter and a gauge, so you can measure your 0 to 60, 0 to 100, all your like performance figures. It's got a GPS unit. Goes straight into the vehicle's CAN bus system, and for this there's a new update for this, which means I can actually program it to be red to match the car. So I'm super excited to get this fitted. I'm not really sure what I've got to do to update it, so I might make a video about how to update these, how to fit them, and how they work basically. But that's really cool. That's gonna declutter the dashboard. I won't need any other gauges. I won't need anything else to tune the car. So this has got software that will run the turbocharger, so fit, and it will do like 4 or 5 things for me. So really happy with that one. Small things here, racing line hose for the intake, just some spares. This actually is quite important because for some reason the car doesn't have a plinth. So I always like to have legal plates, full width, all that kind of stuff. So that's got to go on. This is a new lid for my R600. So the one I've got at the moment has got a bit of a scratch on it. So I'm going to change it for... It's the hardest thing to open ever. For this one. So this is nice and fresh, ready to go, even still got the sticker covering the Racing Line logo. So a great intake, but I just want to refresh the one that's on the car. It's only the cover that's got a scratch somewhere here. So the intake that's on is perfect. I just want to refresh that. But that'll really tidy up the engine bay. Moving on. MQBs have huge issues on circuit with cooling. So I have to do the CSF cooling upgrade. So let me show you what is inside this box. Always packaged so good. So inside here is the MQB radiator. Now I actually have a radiator leak on this car, which on the standard rad is actually coming from these end tanks. So the fact that these are all pressure tested from the factory and they all have welded end tanks is a big bonus. So once I've fitted this, I won't have to worry at all about those. I don't know why cost is why they crimp them from factory, but I won't have to worry about any of the crimp seals going. This is fit and forget, happy days. I will show you what this looks like out of the wrapping, because this is one of the coolest, or the most wow factor pieces that you can see. This will never go back inside now. So, lay that down. How cool is that? So that's going to be really cool. I don't know how to fit it just yet. I might have to look at a couple YouTube videos, see what the best way to do it is. I think you have to swing some of the aircon stuff out the way, but it shouldn't be too bad of a task. All the stuff connects directly to the original hoses, all the brackets and stuff are all there, so pretty straightforward. This, I can't show you. I can't open that box just yet because it's something that we're trying to develop. So if I open it and show you, I'm going to get into trouble. But you can probably imagine what it is. And last but not least, this is the crown jewels in my little haul of stuff. So that is that is a Boomerang wing. So, Japanese manufacturer. I actually helped supply this for someone else's project, the guys at Tarox Brakes. So, this was on another GTI. It was early on in modifying GTIs. I think it was probably around the time these were new. I'd have to check the facts on that, but this was one of the first Boomerang kits to come into the UK. I've got it back. How good's that? So this will be a very aggressive, it comes out to about here. I guess it will look a bit like a Civic really. So I need to know, or need to work out how I'm gonna balance the front. So we'll get a splitter on the front of it. We'll do something there. I'll probably get wider wings too. There's a couple of different types. SRS wings are pretty nice. But yeah, that gives you a basic overview of where it's at, where it might go, and a couple extra tweaks that I might be able to do along the way. So I've made a mess. I'm gonna have to pack all of these things back up into their individual wrappers because I don't think I'm actually gonna be able to get onto this car probably for, I don't know, another week or two. So I am gonna finish the JZX So there will be another video coming out with that car before we start work on this one. But I'm looking forward to doing it actually. Summer track days are coming up. I'm looking forward to getting out on circuit and just enjoying the car, because the best thing about Golfs is they're generally quite reliable. You can get parts really easily and they're pretty quick really. So thanks for joining. I hope some of you resonate with Golfs. Apologies if you don't. Along the course of building this car, maybe you'll learn to love them. So thank you for joining me, and I'll see you on the next video.